2 over x plus 7, what is the value of x? So for here, it's useful to use the fact that in a proportion, cross products are equal, meaning 2 times x minus 1 is equal to 3 times x plus 7. Okay, now we're going to distribute the 2 and the 3 to the terms inside the parentheses. These arrows represent multiplication, and we get 2x minus 2 equals 3x plus 21. Next, we can subtract 2 x's from both sides, and we'll keep the equation balanced because we're taking away the same amount from both sides, and the reason we're doing that is to get rid of that 2x. So now we have minus 2 equals 1x plus 21. We don't need that 1, but we can put it there if we want. Now we want to find just what x equals, so let's subtract away 21 from the right side and the left side. Negative 2 minus 21 is negative 23. And that is the value of 1x, or just x. Number 57, given that a, b, and c are positive integers and a, b, c equals 210, what is the least possible sum for a plus b plus c? So on these problems, usually the least possible sum is going to be when a, b, and c are closest to one another. Let's take a look at what I mean by making a little chart. If a, b, and c are very far apart, it's going to make the sum very big. So let's say a is 2. Then b and c would have to multiply to 105. So let's say they're 105 and 1. The sum of that is 108. Let's say we make b and c closer together. We're going to see the sum is going to become smaller. So let's say a is 2 and b and c multiply to 105, but b is 5 and c is 21. Now the sum is 28. Look how much smaller that is because the numbers got closer together. So now let's start with a is 5. B and c would have to multiply together to 42, because 42 times 5 is 210. And 42 we can do 6 and 7. Those three numbers add to 18. And that is going to be the smallest, least possible sum for a plus b plus c. Number 58. The students from Regent Middle School sat in 20 rows in such a way that each row after the first had 3 more students sitting in it than the previous row. If 16 students sat in the first row, how many students sat in the 19th row? Well, let's make a little chart. Row and students. Row 1 has 16. Row 2 has 19. Row 3 has 22. Now we could keep going and just keep adding 3, and we'll get to the 19th row, and that'll be our answer. But there's a faster way to do it. Every time the rows go up by 1, we're adding 3, right? And to get from the first row to the second row, there's 1 jump of 3. From the first row to the third row is 2 jumps of 3. So to get from the first row, which is 16 kids, to the 19th row, we need 18 jumps of 3. So we can do 16, which is how many are in the first row, plus 18 times 3, because to get from the first row to the 19th row, you're adding 3 18 times. And that will be 16 plus 54, which is 70. 70 students are in row 19. Number 59, what is the area of the polygon whose vertices are connected in that order? Well, let's make these are all in the first quadrant. So let's make a little picture. 0, 0, okay. 3, 4. So that means 3 to the right and 4 up. 0, 8. That means 0 up and down, 8 up. 5, 6, 7, 8. And it said connected in that order, so I'm going to connect them as I go. 5, 8. That's 5 to the right and 8 up. 5, 0. That's down here. 5 to the right, 0. What is the area of this polygon? Well, this is a weird kind of pentagon, but if we think of it as a rectangle with a triangle cut out. So this yellow rectangle has a height of 8, right? Because this point right here is 0, 8. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 has a width of 5. So the full rectangle would be 40. But we have this piece cut out here that's a triangle, right? The area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height, where the base, let's say, is 8, and the height right here is, because this point was 3, 4, the height is 4. So the triangle is 1/2, 8 times 4, 1/2 of 32. Oh, sorry, this is not 4. This height is 3, because it's 3 to the right. We've got to look at the x-coordinate. So the area of the triangle is 1/2 base times height, which is 1/2 of 8 times 3. 8 times 3 is 24. Half of 24 is 12. 40 minus 12 is 28. That's the area of the polygon. So again, we found the area of the rectangle, which was 40, and then we took away this green part, which was the area of the triangle, and what we're left with is the area of this polygon. Number 60, 4-star probability question. Andrew and Lindsay are seated at a round table with 4 other people. If everyone is randomly seated, what is the probability that Andrew and Lindsay are seated next to each other? So we have 6 seats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's say, well, Andrew's got to sit somewhere, right? So let's say he sits here. There's 5 options for where Lindsay could sit, right? She could sit here or here, which would be next to him at the table. Or she could sit at one of the other 3 seats that's not next to him. So overall, the probability that she sits next to him, right, is 2, because there's 2 seats next to him, out of 5, because there are 5 seats left at the table once he sits down. And that logic is going to hold no matter where he sits down first. And it would also hold if we had Lindsay sit down first, right? Then Andrew would have a 2/5. Either way, there's a 2/5 chance that they end up sitting next to one another.